set in the 70s and goes into the 80s, maybe?
Yeah.
There's
late Vietnam, post-Vietnam.
Yeah.
It's by a Vietnamese author.
Yes. And the character basically comes over to America, and there's this whole like double agent sort of feel to it. So it's constantly going back and forth with this character, switching, between these like two personas. And not only the double agent sort of aspect of it, but, coming from Vietnam, moving to America, like this Vietnamese identity and this American identity. And there's just so many ways that it layers that like duality throughout the book. I just thought it was beautifully written.
It is just really beautiful and well done.
So much symbolism, like just packed in there.
And it was like partway through the book that I realized I've never read anything about the Vietnam War from the Vietnamese perspective. Mm-hmm. And I had just reread The Things They Carried, which I still love. It's really beautiful. And then we watched the Ken Burns documentary afterwards. So it was like weird. I felt like I took a seminar, you know what I mean? Like on this subject.
For sure.
I want to do more of that, of like reading one book from this perspective and one book from that, because I don't know, it was just like a fun challenge.
It is pretty great, because then you get like from all the different sides, and sort of like helps you round out that time in history.
Well, and Ken Burns does a good job of being like, this did not start with a war. Let's go back 20, 30 years. This is when this started. Right.
And it's definitely like things that you think you know, like this history you think you know, and then you dive into it and you're like, I know nothing.
It's so easy to forget how Western your perspective is, even when I think you're as educated and like ready to challenge yourself as I think we are. Like, you still have an incredibly Western perspective, and you have to constantly remind yourself, and like even knowing the questions to ask. It's not just asking questions, knowing what questions to ask when you have this huge gap in your knowledge base. It was such a good, I loved it. Anyway, that book was really great. And it just started this whole like thought-provoking sort of thing with me, and then thinking of everything else I know about history, it was great. I also read Benti, which I really loved. For a sci-fi novel with a female protagonist by a female author. And that was just a short little like sci-fi journey that I think is beautiful and everyone should pick up, because it's like 100 pages.
Okay, so like, okay.
I could do that.
Yeah, it's like a novella. And it's won, I think, the Hugo Award and a couple other things.
Oh, nice. That would definitely qualify for some of this year's challenges. So.
For sure. I might actually pop that up, because I don't have one for this year's category of something about space written by an author of color. Mm-hmm. So
that would be a great one. And it's on Hoopla for free.
Yay! I love when things are free on Hoopla.
I love Hoopla.
And I should mention that is my probably 75% of my reading is audiobooks. So
yeah,
if I can get it on audio, I'm usually pretty excited.
And on that note, I think the narrator was good too.
That's always a huge bonus.
Yeah. Oh my God. There's definitely been some. I always listen to the clip on Audible before I purchase them. Mm-hmm. And there have definitely been some where I'm like, I'd love to read that, but not with you.
Yeah. Like, who made that decision? And why?
Some of them are just terrible.
Yeah. Some of them, but sometimes you find ones that are absolutely amazing that completely, change a story. Or I will even find a narrator and then just
go find other books.
Yeah.
I used to be kind of skeptical, actually, kind of getting into this audiobook segue, but I was a little skeptical that the books narrated by somebody famous, like your actors out there, like, were just kind of like gimmicky to like get you to buy them. And then I started I listened to one and I was like, oh, there's a reason you're an actor and you can actually do this justice. It's amazing. Like, it makes for quite the different experience whenever you have somebody that really puts some feeling and emotion behind all of that instead of just sort of reading it to you.
Well, rereading The Things They Carried, Bryan Cranston narrated it, and he did a beautiful job. And then I just read something. Breakfast at Tiffany's was with Dexter, Michael C. Hall.
Oh,
and he actually did a good job too. I know I had the same, like, I was thinking it was like gimmicky, and then I was like, oh wait, you are an actor. It makes sense that you will do this well.
My suspicion is that the audiobook industry is probably significantly made up of actors looking for their next gig, which is why my secret desire to, record an audiobook before I die will probably never happen, because
they're taking
there's
over.
so many actors that
Speaking of, I have to shout out to my favorite, I think, Audible narrator is Bonnie Turpin.
That's my favorite. I love Bonnie Turpin.
The Hate You Give, The Underground Railroad, which I went back and forth between the physical and audio. And then she did Bad Feminist, too. And I'm just like, I love her voice.
I don't know if I've listened to one by her. I should put it on my list.
I have like 4 in my Audible library if you want to go check it out.
Yeah.
Not that we're sharing that, Amazon. Don't worry about it.
Yeah.
Nothing to see here.
Well, I have books that I loved for 2019, and I also have books that I hated in 2018.
Oh yeah.
So
let's bring on the hate. What you hating?
Okay. Where do I start? So I hated a lot of books. So 2 I didn't like. One was Tangerine. Have you heard of Tangerine?
Yes,
I've heard.
Yes,
yeah.
it was it seemed to be getting a lot of press. I meant to actually pick it up last year too.
Yeah, it's got a really striking cover of like a woman, a black and white photo of a woman with a like 1950s, sort of outfit, and the typography. All of it just kind of draws you in. And it's set in Morocco, and in the 50s, and it kind of follows this relationship between 2 women who were roommates in college. And you very soon realize like there's something off and wrong about the relationship, and one of the women is in Morocco because she's married this guy who's not that great, and we're as things get revealed, you don't like him either. But the thing that I didn't like about this book is that so on one hand, I think if it's sort of like a little bit queer. And then,
a touch.
Yeah, and a friend of mine said, if it was like 30% more queer, I might have liked it. This is what Kia, my friend, said. And I agree. But then also it sort of ends with one of them being like sort of gaslighted into a mental asylum institution and gets locked up, and one of them gets away with her fortune, and you're just kind of like, wah, wah.
Of course.
Sort of the like talented Mr. I don't know, Ripley kind of. I just don't
it's a
like
little cliche-ish.
Yeah, I don't like books where the protagonist ends up locked up in an asylum at the very end. Granted, I know that's happened a fair amount, back in this days of yore. But just
did it just feel like was it like an insulting ending, or did it feel like a lazy ending?
No, it felt. I mean, I think it was sort of. It was a little heavy-handed, and it was like, I got her and put her away, and now I've got her fortune, and that'll show her for not loving me. And it was. I don't know. It was not my.
That makes me think of like the first season. I think it's the first episode of Mad Men, when she talks to her therapist, and then he calls the husband and tells him everything. Like, nothing makes my blood boil more than that.
Yeah, that kind
of 50s, 60s bullshit.
Yeah.
And one more thing I'll say before I pass the mic for someone else who wants to talk about things that they hated, but I don't like unreliable narrators, which I guess I should. Like, it should be like I'm more of a Shades of Grey kind of person, but I don't like when my narrators are unreliable. And this one definitely had 2 unreliable narrators.
I actually do like it, but it can get tropey really fast.
Yep.
Like, all of the girl books really quickly became like, okay, we're doing this. It's a thing.
The girl books?
The next Gone Girl.
Yeah, Gone Girl, Girl on the Train. It's
yeah.
all unreliable narrators. It's just there were like 4 in a row, and we're like, okay, well, you killed it.
Yeah.
Everybody go read Lolita and we'll try again. Like, that's...
And I'd like to mention, if it's unreliable narrator and the ending is surprise, she was crazy, it's like, no, uninterested.
I've said it before and I'll say it again. I don't think that what's her name likes women.
Gillian Flynn.
Gillian Flynn does
Gillian
not
Flynn.
like women. Oh my gosh, I totally agree.
I read both Gone Girl and Sharp Objects for the first time last year, and I did like Sharp Objects more, although I don't think she knows shit about rural Missouri.
Where's she from?
She's from Kansas City.
Okay.
So I'm like, maybe, but no. It's not Georgia. It's just not. And like all that, like even talking about like the old money and whatever, and I'm like, this isn't, even in the Boot Hill, it's not the South. It's just not. And like there's not these big plantation houses. There's everything she described is just like Georgia. And I thought the show was good too, but it's the same thing. They even filmed it in Georgia, and I'm like, that's where you think you are. Because it's not Missouri, but whatever.
Yeah, no, I
like the racism is there for sure.
Yeah.
Nailed that part, just not the way it looks.
I mean,
you know what I
think
mean?
That speaks to like whether you are Gillian Flynn or whether you're the Daily or someone reporting on Missouri. You know, it's a little more complicated when you're like Midwest South.
Yeah.
So we can't always get that narrative quite down.
Yeah.
So
And then Gone Girl, it just that's my thought on that.
yeah.
My very unpopular thought, by the way.
I have it
Everyone
on
knows that.
my to read shelf because you guys, I've heard this conversation a couple times, you know, and I'm like, I'm really kind of intrigued now to find out, you know, it's not like it's been getting good praise, but I'm like, I also want to see this garbage trash fire. I don't know.
But the
Like,
whole rest of the world loves it, I feel like.
Yeah.
I actually was looking at a writing seminar, and one of the people teaching it listed their favorite books, and like Gone Girl was at the top, and I was like, nope, nothing to learn from you. One of them that I like both loved and also didn't love, I don't know, I had to like stew in this book, but An American Marriage by Tayari Jones.
Interesting.
that was okay.
I thought it was beautifully written. It was really tragic. But speaking of like unreliable narrators, reminds me of just like unlikable characters. And I think there's a time and a place for that. But like that book, just no one is likable, and it
Like,
just
who am I
makes
supposed
it.
to be rooting for here?
Yeah, I can't like curl up in anybody's head and like hope it works out for them, which is maybe good because it's not going to work out for anyone. But you know, like,
Spoiler
which
alert.
maybe is the point. But it was just like hard chapter after chapter to get in these people's heads and be like, I don't really like you that much. But I did later though, the more I thought about it, I liked it more, you know, after I read it. It was like almost like tasting vinegar. You're like, whoa, that's a lot. It's sour. And then later you're like, yeah, but you need it for things. So I don't know. That's my feeling.
Serve
on
the
this
make a
book.
salad with it.
Yeah, I need it on my salad. So
That
I don't know.
definitely, I mean, got a lot of press this last year, and it's Oprah's book club challenge, Oprah's book club pick, which was one of the challenges from the 2018 Read Harder
I want to say
challenge.
it got shortlisted for Man Booker.
Did it?
Was it Man
Oh, yeah,
Booker
I don't
or it was on some awards for sure. Which that's always like, I feel like that pushes me to the other side when they're like, this book deserves an award, and I'm like, no, it doesn't.
Excuse me.
I think Lincoln at the Bardo won the previous year, and I read it and I hated that. George Saunders,
Okay.
Lincoln at the Bardo, I was not a fan, but that definitely won.
I did like it though. Like, it is also, she's a beautiful writer, so I think that's really important. And the subject matter is important, but I wavered on that one back and forth.
Yeah, it's hard because one of the things I love the most about reading is just that ability to like cultivate empathy, right? And so if it's hard for you to, and I love when you get a challenging character who really in many ways isn't likable, but you find yourself connecting, feeling empathy, feeling compassion. I think that's a really valuable experience, and one of the reasons I think we all read. So then when you don't like anybody,
You know, a book that I read all of last year. So, I mean, I'm telling you, all of last year.
All of last year.
And I hated all of the characters.
Oh boy.
Was Atlas Shrugged.